Well, now take down your fishing pole and meet me at the fishing hole. I can't think of a better way to pass the time of day.
It's the fishing invention of the century. And does it catch fish?
RodMob. This is The Splash, your Northern California fishing podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Scott.
And I'm Sarah.
And we've got Sydney the Rod Dog here in the studio today. We're coming at you from the RodMob Treehouse here in Sprinkly, Portola Valley. It's Friday, November 16th, and this is episode 35 of The Splash, your weekly Northern California fishing podcast.
We've got a pretty packed show today, which is good because it's going to need to hold you over through the week of Thanksgiving. We're going to take the week off from the podcast due to mashed potato food comas, but we will continue to post reports, news, and updates to Facebook, Twitter, and of course, rodmob.com. And the winners of the Turkey Day giveaway will be selected on Thanksgiving Day, so stay tuned to us on Facebook to see if you're a winner.
This week on Facebook, we posted and asked what you guys liked about fall fishing, and we got a ton of comments. Looks like the RodMob loves themselves some year-end fishing, so we look forward to hearing from you guys with your reports.
Today, we'll look at fishing in the news, update you on the latest reports around Northern California. Last week's poll question results are in, and we'll get you up to speed on local events with the RodMob calendar.
So I don't know how many of you guys have ever tried kayak fishing. It's something I've sure never done, but over the past years, I've noticed a lot more guys are out there doing it. I've been on a kayak socially in Tamales Bay, but I've never fished on one before. Once a kayaker saved my life when I was thrown into the frigid rapids of the Yuba, but that's a whole entire another story. But lately, with crab season started, I saw guys were crabbing from kayaks, and then last week, Adam from the Headwaters Kayak Fishing Team posted some pictures on our Facebook page of sturgeon fishing from a kayak. It was so cool. The fish was as big as his kayak. So I thought, okay, I need to learn more about this. So I got on the phone with Victor Woolworth from the Headwaters Kayak Fishing Team a couple days ago. I'm here with Victor Woolworth. He took some time out of his day to talk to us about kayak fishing that I've been seeing as a very, very cool sport, and it seems to be growing popular. Thanks again for joining us today, Victor.
No problem.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been kayak fishing for about roughly 2 years now. Part of the Headwaters Kayak Fishing Team and a member of NorCal Kayak Anglers. What really got me into kayak fishing was actually I used to crab off of piers, and I figured there must be a better way to get out a little further into water. And so that's how I got into the general of kayak fishing and kayak crabbing.
So you were an angler first, and that's what got you into kayak fishing? Or kayaking?
Actually, I hadn't fished too much when I was younger, and I was really big into crabbing off of piers, and so that kind of was my gateway into kayak crabbing, and then from there I started fishing off the kayak.
Then what other types of fishing do you do from the kayak?
I've done everything from rock fishing to freshwater, pretty much anything that will bite. That's the cool thing about kayaks is you can pretty much hit any water and be able to catch anything.
Can you talk a little bit about the setup, what's kind of rigging you need to do on a kayak for fishing? Do you guys have fish finders and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's almost like just a mini boat. Everyone has everything from downriggers to depth finders, fish finders. I guess the only thing is you're limited on space, so you have to really think it through on where you're going to place your rods or any gear you have. As far as limiting yourself, I think pretty much you can use some of the same gear you would use on a boat. We always recommend people who are getting into kayak fishing to test out their kayak first, see what works with placement, because it's always hard to drill into a boat and then realize that's not where you wanted your rod holder.
So you're actually going out and dropping pots, or are you guys using snares, or how you get attacking these crab?
No, yeah. So for crabbing off a kayak, we've been using everything from Promar traps to Danielson traps. With kayak crabbing, you're limited to space on your kayak, so a lot of Promar traps we're able to collapse them and wait till we get out to where we're going to drop them. We've been dropping pots. Some guys have been dropping in Half Moon Bay. Some have been dropping in Bodega Bay. And usually with a kayak, you're dropping, an average anywhere from 30 to 45 feet.
Uh-huh. And do you have like a little custom line puller or something on there? You guys just pulling them up by hand?
Scotty does make a product to be able to pull up a crab pop, but for about 35 to 40 feet, we usually do it by hand. It's not too bad. I'm sure if it was dropping at depths of 100, we'd be using different gear.
So what about safety? It seems like you guys got to be more concerned about the weather than probably most boats. Is that a big deal to the kayakers?
Yeah, on a kayak, you're pretty close to the elements. You're a few inches away from the water. One of the important things we always reiterate as a kayak angler or even part of a team is safety. We always recommend that people at least go out with wetsuits. A lot of us have dry suits that we go out with.
Uh-huh.
So it's always important to dress for immersion just in case you do fall in.
Right. What sites or information for getting weather do you depend on?
A lot of it, we go to NOAA to point and click. And a lot of it is, when you get there, you have to look at the conditions and look at it and see if it's something that you feel that's going to be safe.
You got any stories, any close calls out there?
I did go out once at night, and we were dropping pots, and the drift was moving pretty fast. So you definitely got to stay on top of your game as far as seeing where you are, making sure you're staying with your landmarks. But otherwise, it's pretty safe. We always recommend kayak fishing or kayak crabbing with other people, at least, so there's a little safety there.
Yeah. What about, do you get boated by the Coast Guard? Are there Coast Guard requirements that kayaks need to have out when you're out there?
You know what? The kayaks, are a little different. They don't fall necessarily under as stringent as boats, but, you are required to have your PFD, a personal flotation device.
Right.
If you are anchored, you need your light that can be visible within 2 miles at night. But other than that, there's, nothing really that sticks out.
Very cool. And then, do you feel that kayakers get respect out there from other boats? Is it like a bicyclist versus cars kind of thing?
You know what? It's kind of funny that you mentioned that because it is kind of like that out there. You definitely get looks out there. People saying, what's this guy doing out there on a kayak? Even if you're fishing out there, people are making fun of you for saying, oh, he's going to get towed by this fish, or wow, look at the pots he's carrying on his kayak. But it's pretty much, I think, once people see how contagious it is, it's really exciting because that's the thing is, it's a little bit more of a risk factor. There's a little bit more contact with the elements, so it's something that people really get into once they see how fun it is.
How physical of a sport is it? Do you have to be in good shape, or is it something you can kind of jump into without a lot of work?
Well, yeah, there's definitely. You don't have to be the fittest guy out there, but there definitely is. It's important to be able to practice self-rescue before going out into the ocean, to be able to get back onto your boat, and to be able to paddle. You don't want to get stuck out somewhere where, say, the drift takes you out, and then you have a hard time getting back in.
So let's talk about where would someone start if they wanted to get into kayak fishing?
I definitely think the best place to start for kayak fishing here in Northern California is going to ncka.org, which is the site for NorCal kayak anglers. There's over 2,000 members on that site, and the cool thing is they give you ideas on rigging, what kind of kayak would best suit you. There's just so much information on that site.
Is like renting a possibility to somebody kind of want to test the waters?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of kayak shops. The shop that I represent is Headwaters Kayak shop in Lodi, California.
Mm-hmm.
And they rent out boats that would be great for saltwater, for freshwater, anything, stand-up, stable kayaks. There's definitely a lot out there, and everything can be rented through them or through other shops in the area.
Very cool. So what's the best way to get a hold of you guys at Headwaters?
Easiest way would be headwaterskayak@gmail.com.
Okay.
We're also on Facebook under Headwaters Kayak Fishing Team.
Thanks again, Victor, for joining us. And I mentioned earlier about sturgeon fishing. Well, on Tuesday, November 20th, Headwaters team member Adam Coons will be giving a seminar on fishing for sturgeon from your kayak. This seminar will be held at the Headwaters shop in Lodi. It will cover the basics of targeting sturgeon, handling big fish from your kayak, and regulations. Adam will bring in his sturgeon rig Cuda as an illustration. All are welcome, but this clinic is geared for those who are comfortable fishing from their kayak, but have not yet handled fish in the 20 to 100 pound range. Check out the Headwaters Kayak Fishing Team on Facebook for more info.
Here's Sarah with the latest headlines.
Well, in the news this week, many East Coast communities are still reeling from Hurricane Sandy, and the first estimate on the damages caused to recreational boats just came in. SportFishingMag.com reports the Boat Owners Association of the United States estimates that over 65,000 recreational boats were damaged or lost because of the hurricane. They're putting the dollar amount at $650 million in damages, which is the single largest industry loss since they started tracking in 1966. It's official, fish that grow up in marine reserves are more naive than other fish. An Australian team of researchers that's been working in the Philippines studying the effects of marine reserves found that fish that grow up in marine reserves are much more naive when it comes to avoiding spearfishers. Turns out fish that live in areas where there's a lot of fishing are much warier of divers and spearfishers. But fish that stray out of reserve areas are much more innocent and will let people get a lot closer, making them more catchable. In fact, the researchers established there's a naivete radius of about 150 meters from a reserve boundary where the fish are more catchable. One of the researchers, Dr. Nick Graham, says this info will be very useful for areas where spearfishing is a way of life for people, and local fishers can feel they're getting some benefit from having a local area that's closed to fishing. Or traditional reserves where fishing is taboo most of the time, but are opened for fishing by village elders just a few days a year.
So is your point here that fish are dumb?
The fish within the naivete radius are dumb. So you want to target that radius.
Is there a scale for that, or meter, or an app for that?
You get a little naivete radius finder on iPhone.
Yeah.
Boop, boop, dumb fish ahead.
Patent pending.
Here in California, the California Fish and Game Commission voted to limit fisheries for forage fish, including herring, mackerel, and sardines, all small fish that make up a basic food source for larger marine animals and that are harvested by commercial boats and recreational anglers for bait. The commission basically said that no new forage fisheries will be established, and existing fisheries won't be expanded until more info is available for ecosystem-based management. The commission also adopted changes to sturgeon regulations on Thursday. The changes don't go into effect for a couple of months, but some of the changes include only one single-point, single-shank barbless hook may be used on a line when taking sturgeon. You can't use a snare to help land a sturgeon, and you can't remove a fish longer than 68 inches from the water.
Stay on top of the latest fishing action. Subscribe to RodMob Podcasts on iTunes. It's free, and you'll always get the latest episodes.
An environmental group called Wilderness Watch is suing the California Department of Fish and Game for how they're stocking fish in high mountain lakes in Humboldt, Klamath, and Lake counties. They're saying that when the DFG flies over wilderness areas and drops hatchery fish into the lakes and rivers, they're spreading foreign pollutants into the waterways. So the group is suing under the Clean Water Act. The Courthouse News has a quote from George Nikas with Wilderness Watch, who says introducing hatchery fish can be detrimental to native fish and amphibians, and that there can be all kinds of pathogens from the fish hatcheries. Nikas also says that many high mountain lakes historically have been fishless, so dropping in fish can upset the natural ecosystem. Commercial crab prices were set in the San Francisco Bay Area, and the commercial season kicked off at midnight Wednesday night. That same day, the DFG announced that for North Coast crabbers, the season will be delayed by at least 2 weeks to allow crabs to fill with more meat. So it's looking like the commercial season for Humboldt, Mendocino, and Del Norte counties won't be opening until at least December 16th. The Del Norte Triplicate reported that shellfish from Del Norte County coasts have the highest level of biotoxins that have ever been detected in the area. The toxins are produced by red algal blooms, often called the red tide, and the blooms have been so intense this year that on many stretches of the coast, they've been visible to the naked eye. The toxins, known as paralytic shellfish poisoning toxins, can affect the central nervous system. Every year there's a quarantine on gathering mussels in California starting in May, basically to keep people from consuming the biotoxins that accumulate in the shellfish. Typically, the quarantine gets lifted on October 31st, but the California Department of Public Health has extended the quarantine indefinitely for Humboldt and Del Norte counties after they found levels of toxins at 6,000 micrograms per 100 grams of tissue in mussels at Wilson Creek Beach and 1,763 micrograms per 100 grams in samples collected in Crescent City. The federal alert level is 80 micrograms per 100 grams, and the previous record for the highest concentration in Del Norte was 370. Cooking doesn't destroy the toxins, and public health officials have added sport-harvested clams and scallops to the list of shellfish people should stay away from. They're also advising people to avoid eating the internal organs of crabs, since PSP toxins can accumulate there too. Crab meat should be safe, though. The department has tested crabs for toxins after cooking and says the risk is eliminated by cleaning the crab thoroughly and discarding the internal organs and eating only the white meat. It's not certain how long the quarantine will last. The public health department said often a change in environmental conditions like wind, rain, and/or water temperature will cause the toxin-producing phytoplankton to die off or be transported away from the coastline. They'll continue to collect samples and track toxin levels.
Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/therodmob.
And a few salmon stories this week. Trout Unlimited reported that adult fall-run Chinook salmon were released into the upper San Joaquin River below Friant Dam this week. Very historic milestone. This group of salmon will be the first to spawn in the upper San Joaquin River in 50 years. Scientists working on the San Joaquin River restoration will be studying the migration and spawning behavior of the salmon. Over 150 Chinook salmon have been spotted using the new fish ladder in Auburn Ravine near Lincoln over the past 3 weeks, and the Mercury News says officials have found 13 spawning sites in the Gravel Creek bed upstream of the Placer County ladder. The ladder cost $800,000, and the Save Auburn Ravine Salmon and Steelhead Group worked for 3 years to bring salmon back to the creek. They're saying the results have already exceeded their expectations. And finally, the Yuba County Water Agency set a notice of intent to sue the National Marine Fisheries Service this week unless it revises its opinion on improving Yuba River salmon runs. The recommendations from the Fisheries Service could cost as much as $1 billion to implement, millions more than the project list for the entire Sacramento region. And the Water Agency says the recommendations don't take into account the efforts already underway to help restore endangered fish runs on the Yuba under the Yuba River Accord. The Water Agency says that when the Fisheries Service was developing the opinion, they gave the agency only a day to respond, and the service doesn't take into account what's already been accomplished. The Water Agency says it's invested more money into improving the Yuba River than all environmental agencies combined. The Fisheries Service has 60 days to respond or face a federal lawsuit.
Well, that's it for the headlines. Now for some tight lines. Here's the latest reports on the best Northern California fishing. Starting with saltwater, on the North Coast, Real Steel Sport Fishing in Eureka has been finding easy limits of crab on every trip. They snuck out today for limits just ahead of the rain. Telstar Charters out of Fort Bragg reported calm seas and great crabbing this week. They scored easy and early limits, including some jumbos. Out of Bodega Bay, we saw some tuna reports earlier in the week. Productive rock fishing and crabbing continues. Combo trip limits are standard, and anglers even found some November halibut. RodMobber Steven Sankey was out crabbing on Sunday and reports that dungies are big and fat and easy limits are out there.
Outside the gate, boats continued to get their crab on. Soaks off the Marin Coast, near N Buoy, W Buoy, and the North Bar resulted in packed pots. Charter boats nailed limits on combo trips for crab, rockfish, and sand dabs out at the Farallons. Last Sunday, the weather settled down for skippers in Half Moon Bay, so their customers could focus on catching their lunch instead of losing it. Quick limits of crab and rockfish continued this week. Bayside Marine reports the weather has been great in Santa Cruz. The crab fishing remains good up the coast near 3 Mile to Davenport, and rock fishing continues to be great for the anglers working the local rock piles. The lingcod fishing has been on fire for smaller fish near the lighthouse, and there have been some bigger fish caught near Franklin Point. There are some nice Humboldt squid in 200 feet of water near 5 Mile Beach, and the sand dabs are still thick down near the edge of the canyon near Pajaro. Sea bass fishing is still going well for anglers fishing with fresh dead squid near 3 Mile to 5 Mile Beach, and the perch fishing is starting to pick up since there's been a few swells and rain that made some nice sandbars. There's still a few halibut being caught in Capitola and up the coast. You can reach Bayside Marine at 831-475-2173 or online at baysidemarinesc.com.
Chris's Fishing and Whale Watching out of Monterey had a great week. Their guests aboard the Checkmate and Star of Monterey enjoyed limits of crab and Rockies. Thursday, they also got into some Humboldt squid, and Tuesday, they topped off limits with 24 lings. In the San Francisco Bay, there's been some nice flat days this week and some good tides. The North Bay saw good striper action, and the Napa and Petaluma rivers continue to be hot spots for stripers this week. Rain should help river sturgeon action, and anglers found sturgeon near the pump house and perch at Oyster Point. On the Delta, the Loritz and Rattletrap only striper derby is going on this weekend. We'll try and get some results for our next episode. We got a couple of reports from Clive Wands this week. He was out on the water Tuesday trolling in Broad and Montezuma Slough and nailed 5 stripers to 8 pounds. And here's his report from yesterday.
This is Clyde. Just a quick report. Got into some nice fish south of Collinsville today. Had almost all of it deep. Using a spreader and rattle trap combination. Finished up the day catching a double. But I caught fish up to 16 pounds. I got 14 nice fish today. And I had an 8 and a 6 in the mix there, and then some smaller ones, of course, you always get, but pretty good day. And I'll be fishing a derby on Saturday, rain or shine. My entry fee's paid, so I'm going to see what I can do. Talk to you later. Bye.
The good striper bite continued throughout the Delta. In Pittsburgh, the Mothball Fleet and Chain Island continue to be good spots for sturgeon. Largemouth bass fishing is good in the Delta, but the fish are on the smaller side. Last weekend, RodMobbers John and Jonathan Politis were out on the Delta and caught and released some monster sturgeon, including a 75-incher. They said they're Craven Row. On Tuesday, Jonathan got into some stripers soaking Bullhead and Montezuma Slough.
Keep us posted. Share your catch, tips, gear reviews, and more on our Facebook page. Facebook.com/RodMob.
Now let's look at the lakes. Lake Shasta is at about 50% capacity, and if you can find the bait, you'll find some bass. As the lake turns, trout are being found by the dam and in the arms of the Sac and McLeod. Anglers are getting limits and a chill at Eagle Lake. Bait, lures, and flies are all working. The Circus Grounds, Shrimp Island, Pikes Point, and Christie Day use areas are some good spots. For an update on Clear Lake, we spoke today with Troy at Clear Lake Outdoors.
Fishing, it's showing signs of improvement, definitely with the latest rainstorm we got. Still a lot of fish kind of confused and roaming around up here in the north end, but mid-lake and south has been a pretty consistent bite. Mainly swim baits and lipless crankbaits and deep diving crankbaits have been the best baits, and we're just now starting to see the Alabama rig starting to bring some fish in. So. Yeah, I would rate the fishing as, fair to good, but, it's not crazy outstanding right now, but it's pretty good.
Cool. Is there more tournaments headed to Clear Lake?
This weekend they're having the One Bass Team TOC. As a matter of fact, it's tomorrow and Sunday, and then after that, for the most part, everything's settling back down, and then the tournaments will start back up in January.
Okay.
So not a lot of pressure or traffic after this weekend, and for the recreational fishermen, the jumbo minnow bite has been nothing short of awesome. And mid-lake places like Shag Rock and Konatahi, and the guys been going out just whacking them real good on the jumbo minnows.
Is that something you can pick up at your shop there?
Yeah, we do sell them here at the shop. And we do what we affectionately call the cousin dozen, and then throw in a couple extra.
All right.
You can reach Clear Lake Outdoors at 707-262-5852 or online at clearlakeoutdoors.com. The bite is on at Lake Berryessa. We've been seeing good reports on the forums, and Western Outdoor News says bass have been caught spooning and drop-shotting shadworms for fish to 4 pounds as they corral schools of shad. The trout action has been best at 6 feet for most of the day, then they dropped to 20 to 30 feet. Guide Ron Gandolfi reports that fishing Lake Oroville was good and improving after the recent storms, with 50 to 60 fish days possible. Bait was still on the surface, and the top water bite really turned on this past week. Lots of smaller fish were hitting drop shot and dart head worms, senkos, spinnerbaits, and swim baits on rocky points and walls in the West Branch, North Fork, Middle Fork, and the Slot. Boaters still need to look for the temperature break in the upper river arms. Bigger fish to 5 pounds were concentrated in deeper water, 40 to 60 feet deep on the points and 60 to 90 feet deep on bridge pilings. Drop shot worms and spoons were working on the deeper fish. Trollers were loading up on 8 to 10-inch coho in the West Branch.
At Collins Lake, fishermen experienced phenomenal trout fishing and were extremely pleased with the size of the fish, reports Western Outdoor News. Weekly fall plants were really attracting the anglers with a chance of catching trout up to 13 pounds. The plants, half catchables from 1 to 3 pounds and half trophy fish from 4 to 13 pounds, will continue until the week of Thanksgiving. Howard Victorino caught a 6-pound rainbow off the dam on power bait. Ray and Margaret Johnson of Sacramento landed catfish weighing 7 1/4, 8 1/4, and 10 pounds, plus a big stringer of trout along the east side of the lake on worms. In the East Bay, trout fishing is starting to pick up at Lake Chabot. Trout ranging from 5 to 8 pounds were caught within the past week. Fire tiger rapalas and castmasters are best for trollers, and chartreuse and rainbow power bait have been the best baits. Good striper fishing continues at San Luis and the Forebay. Trolling, tossing spooks, and soaking worms have been productive.
And in the Motherlode area, trout fishing is slowed at New Melones, but a trout plant is coming next week. Catfish and bass are your best bets right now. The annual derby at Lake Amador begins November 23rd. Daily trout plants continue, and each week 10 prize-tagged fish are planted. $5 is the entry fee, and that'll last you through March 31st. At Lake Comanche, anglers are still getting limits before the lake turns over. They're trolling near Hat Creek and dropping power bait and crawlers near the causeway. There are still a bunch of those tagged fish that'll earn you an overnight stay in a Comanche cottage, so go get them. This week, a 6-pound catfish was landed in the North Shore Marina Cove using chicken liver.
We want to hear from you. Got a fishing report, a tip, a review, a comment on the show? Drop us a message on the RodMob hotline. Then listen for it on an upcoming episode. 662-RODMOB5.
In the Sierras, ski resorts surrounding Lake Tahoe are starting to open, but the fish don't care. Trolling and jigging deep is still producing macks and nice browns and bows. Areas like Crystal Point and Agate Bay have been good for macks. And at Donner Lake, the water is low, but you can still find some hungry fish. Go deep and try bigger lures. You might just land a big Donner winter mack. RodMobber Wyatt Turner just reported in today that he's been catching Mackinaw from the banks at Donner, 2 in the last couple days, and he's also catching some nice bows.
Crosby Lodge at Pyramid Lake in Nevada saw fish brought in to 14 pounds this week. Shore anglers are having better results, and trollers are landing 20 to 30 fish a day. At Convict Lake, the Fall Fishing Derby, Ambush at the Lake, wrapped up this week. The staff reports good fishing. Crowley Lake closed this Thursday, so we thought we'd play the soundbite for one last time this year.
Mr. Crowley.
It's been cold and the season ended a bit slow, but the lake got good plans for the fall, so our fingers are crossed for next year.
On the rivers, Western Outdoor News reports that lots of steelhead are moving up the river on the Klamath, and fishing is good from Blue Creek to Orleans. And around Iron Gate, there's light pressure, and steelies are being caught on flies, roe, and night crawlers. The wild steelhead bite is on the Trinity River. Good reports are coming from the Douglas City and Junction City areas. Dress warm, check the regulations, and expect some crowds. The Pitt River has been fishing well. Again, check the regs starting November 16th and go get 'em. On the Sacramento River, the late fall salmon run has hit. Folks out there fishing from Colusa to Red Bluff are getting their limits. There have also been ocean fresh fish coming through the Sacramento area, and we hear anglers are doing well fishing from Garcia Bend to the I-5 bridge. If you're targeting trout, you can't go wrong in the Redding area, and the Fly Shop says this great fishing should continue for weeks to come. Try egg patterns in orange, pink, and salmon, along with dark-colored nymphs. And guide Chris Parsons says be on the lookout for BWO hatches and rising rainbows midday on the lower Sac. Steelhead fishing on the Feather River has been rockin'. Fish are being taken in both the high and low flows. On the Yuba, Western Outdoor News reports trout fishing continues to be outstanding, and fly fishers are even still hooking fat natives on dry flies. The hot spots are from the Highway 20 bridge down to Sycamore Ranch.
Parts of the Truckee River in California closed November 15th, so be sure to check the regulations. The river remains open to fishing from Trout Creek to the state line with artificials with barbless hooks and a zero limit until April. In the Eastern Sierras, general trout season came to an end on Thursday. There are many year-round fishing options with special regulations for those craving some winter trout action. Western Outdoor News reports the season ended with a bang on East Carson, and the river was still full of fish, so that should provide good action next spring when the season reopens in April.
Woo! Fish! Woo! All right!
Catch of the week.
In honor of crab fever, this week our podcast artwork comes from Art Restoro. Art posted a nice pic of a full pot of Dungeness on our Facebook page on Wednesday and said, "Last catch for the day, all keepers, before the commercial guys scoop all the rest tomorrow." Thanks, Art, for the report and for posting this week's
Catch of the Week. And now for our poll question.
Last week we asked, have you ever participated in a fishing derby? Well, half of you said yes, you have. 42% said not yet, but you'd like to. And only 8% said, well, derbies aren't really your thing. Have you ever fished in a derby?
Sure.
Really? Like what?
I have. When I was a little kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you win?
No, it was like Huck Finn Fishing Day at Heather Farm Park. I'm sure, all the kids won something.
Huck Finn Fishing Day?
Yeah. Huck Finn Day or something.
If it was Tom Sawyer Fishing Day, it would be like you try to convince somebody else to catch the fish for you.
Okay, now for this week's poll question. The other day, I pulled out my California's Fly Fisher magazine out of the mailbox, and on the cover was this adorable picture of this kid, all bundled up, wearing waders, holding a trout with a big old smile. And I looked inside, and I saw the picture was taken by one of my favorite guides, Herb Burton of the Trinity Fly Shop. By the way, they just celebrated their 30th anniversary. And the kid was Mason, his grandson. Anyway, it's super cute, and I'm a sucker for cute pictures of kids fishing. So it got me thinking about how fishing is a lifelong activity. So this week we want to know, how old were you when you started fishing? We'll post a poll question on our website, so head on over to rodmob.com to cast your vote.
The sign-up deadline is right around the corner for our Turkey Day giveaway. The drawing's on Thanksgiving, so don't miss your chance to win a cool prize pack full of swag and gear from Military Hunting and Fishing, Hot Huntress, Purificup, the RodMob, and more. This is your last call. Entering is easy peasy. Just go to our website and click Turkey Day Giveaway.
Gobble, 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 turkey from Jive Turkey Gobble.
Upcoming events you won't want to miss. Here's the RodMob calendar.
This weekend is packed with events. There's the second annual Striped Bass Rattle Trap Only Catch and Release Derby held by Lauritsen Yacht Harbor in Oakley. The Western Outdoor News Bass Northern Team TOC will be at Clear Lake. Tournament headquarters is the Canocti Vista Casino. Also this weekend, on Saturday, Rick Kennedy of Tight Lines Guide Service will be teaching the ins and outs of trolling for landlocked king salmon in Northern California lakes. The seminar is free and takes place at the Sportsman's Warehouse in Rockland from 1 to 3 p.m. On November 20th, the Headwaters Kayak Shop in Lodi is holding a sturgeon fishing from your kayak seminar at 6:15 p.m. And coming up on November 29th, they'll be talking swim baits for bass at the Fisherman's Warehouse in Fresno at 6:15 p.m. And at the Fisherman's Warehouse in Manteca, professional bass fisherman Ish Monroe talks crankbait techniques at 6 p.m. And finally, Trout Unlimited's North Bay chapter is looking for volunteers for Trout in the Classroom, a growing program which helps teachers and students learn about trout and salmon. Volunteers are needed for a few hours a week between December and March. For more on the program and how to volunteer, go to www.nbtu.org. For details on these and other upcoming events, check out our events page at rodmob.com.
Well, that's it for this week. Thanks to everyone for all the great reports. You guys rock.
If you're digging the show, please subscribe to us in iTunes. That way, you'll automatically get the latest episode as soon as we post it. And it really helps us out if you leave a review. That way we get better exposure on iTunes so we can grow the RodMob.
Our new online store is up at rodmob.com/gear. We got RodMob t-shirts and decals available. And remember, if you send in a report, we'll send you a free weather-resistant decal so you can help rep the mob on your car, truck, or boat.
If you've got feedback or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. We want to bring you the best show we can. Just shoot us an email at fishon@rodmob.com.
Have a great Thanksgiving holiday. Thanks for listening, and until next time. Keep us posted.
RodMob.